It's been another landmark weekend in terms of how the COVID-obsessed who want forever restrictions and draconian controls in our lives wake up to the reality of Omicron. It's a pussycat that's bringing this pandemic to a speedy end. The doomsday modelers have been forced to admit they got it hysterically and dangerously wrong, actually, when it comes to the scariant, just like I'd been warning for weeks. The lockdown cheerleaders at the BBC devoted an entire episode of their Sunday morning news show to learning to live with COVID. Only a year and a half too late, folks. Dr. Clive Dix, the highly respected former chair of the UK Vaccines Task Force who helped firms develop COVID vaccinations, dropped this truth bomb in the Observer newspaper, of all places. Mass population-based vaccination in the UK should now end. He went on to say COVID should now be treated as an endemic virus similar to the flu, just as I've been saying for months. The mainstream media have woken up to the fact there is zero justification for forcing our kids to wear masks for 8 hours a day at school. The UK Health Security Agency, run by Jenny Harries, has received a warning from the statistics regulator over Sajid Javid's dodgy claim there had been 200,000 Omicron infections a day by mid-December. And Javid himself was confronted by a hero doctor called Steve James at King's College Hospital in London over his barbaric policy to sack unvaccinated NHS workers from later this year.
So I've had COVID at some point.
Yeah.
I've got antibodies.
Yeah.
I've been working on COVID ITU since the beginning. I have not had a vaccination. I did not want to have a vaccination. The vaccine's reducing transmission only for about 8 weeks with Delta. With Omicron, it's probably less. And for that, I would be dismissed if I don't have a vaccine. It's not. The science isn't strong enough.
That's your view. And your views?
Even the lunatic communists within the independent SAGE group have admitted that just like the Labour Party, they got it spectacularly wrong to demand more lockdown measures pre-Christmas. So finally, within government, serious conversations are taking place about how we can open up the economy once and for all. To do that, I'm convinced we must stop the long-term testing and isolation of the asymptomatic, or life will never return to normal. The left have erupted in true horror, to reports in the Sunday Times that this will also mean axing free lateral flow tests within weeks, only providing them on the state in high-risk settings like, care homes, hospitals, schools, or to people with symptoms. But I think that's the best thing this government could possibly do. How is it normal for the government to spend £6 billion to keep testing perfectly healthy folk? Free tests, not provided, by the way, in the US or Australia or Ireland, have inflated our COVID case rate and allowed us to become a punching bag for the rest of the world. Of course, all of this is bad news for a little COVID dictator like Mark Drakeford, who has done all he can to numb the Welsh people into terror over Omicron by banning everything from going to a nightclub to running in a group outdoors. Ludicrously, this bloke claimed Boris Johnson wasn't protecting the English people.
The outlier here is not Wales. Wales is taking action, as is Scotland, as is Northern Ireland, and as are countries right across Europe and right across the globe. The one country that stands out as not taking action to protect its population is England. So the question is not why is Wales not following what is going on in England. The real question is why is England such a global outlier in the way in which governments elsewhere are attempting to protect their populations from coronavirus. And the political...
Well, Mr. Drakeford, the stats don't lie. Wales has consistently had a higher case rate than England, including right now. Your ridiculous restrictions about fear and control don't do anything to stop the spread of the virus. In fact, England's COVID rate is also now lower than Scotland, believe it or not. According to figures published by Nicola Sturgeon's Scottish Government, the nation has 2,824 cases per million people in the week to January the 6th. That compares to England's 2,615. England also much lower than Wales with 3,481 and Northern Ireland with 3,893. Yep, that's right. That's England. That didn't decide to slaughter the hospitality industry and plunge us into what amounts to further lockdowns, even though, by the way, I think Plan BS is still highly damaging. Now, some of us have been wide awake for years now to the dangers of the sort of policy approach coming from Scotland and Wales. We're fast being proved right.